Hello, my name is Jingonelli, and today we are going to be continuing from where we left off. And before I begin off, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It will bring you good luck in your forthcoming exams. Then we are having the theoretical perspectives on the economic growth. That's where we had ended. So with the economic growth, this refers to a persistent quantitative increase in the goods and services produced in a country over a period of time. Then we use the production possibility frontier, that is the PPF, to illustrate economic growth. And when it shifts outward, then there is economic growth in the country. And we are going to be looking at some of the basic growth theory and its important facts that you should know. So with this theory, GDP, they define GDP as the market value of all final goods and services newly produced on the domestic soil during a given period of time. So why do economists care about the GDP? First of all, output is highly correlated with things people care about. So for example, we can look at the standard of living or the general happiness. Then economists assert that high GDP per capita reflects a high standard of living. And then we are going to be looking at limitations of GDP as a measure. And here, however, economists concur that GDP may at times be misleading. So some of the common limitations of GDP as a measure of economic performance include the following. They were not listed in this PDF, but you can try to note them down. We are having GDP does not take into account the type of good produced. That is, some goods such as cigarettes do not directly improve on the human welfare. Then we are having GDP per capita does not take into account the efforts applied in producing output. For example, employees may be overworked while producing the output. Then we are having it ignores impact of economic activity on the environment. That is, for example, oil drilling may be carried out but negatively impacting on the environment. Then we are having GDP per capita does not take into account many factors that may be important to quality of life, such as we are having the water, sanitation, etc. Then GDP per capita statistics do not consider income distribution. And then second last point, we are having the nominal GDP per capita does not count for inflation, which is an important determinant of welfare. Then inflationary tendencies make comparison in welfare very difficult. Then that's when we get to look at an aspect in the 1970 where the king of Bhutan, a small kingdom in South Asia, whereby he proposed the GNH, which is the gross national happiness, as a better index to measure development instead of the GDP. So this looked at how an individual is doing. So people in urban areas were happier than the ones in the rural areas. So trying to look at the nominal versus the real variables. Here, nominal GDP is an output valued at current prices. However, comparing national GDPs over time can be problematic. And we are having a formula of the real GDP as indicated below, which is real GDP is equal to nominal GDP over the price deflector. And if at all the question asks you for a price deflector, you can as well interchange by cross multiplying. Then moving to what needs to be done to raise real GDP. what needs to be done to raise real GDP per capita. So here, economists believe that for a country to grow, it must transform its primary production into intermediate production, and also investment in research and development. So if economists believe that if at all they invest in innovation and knowledge, the aggregate level of knowledge in the economy increases proportionately with the production of the new ideas. And also in terms of increasing GDP, what is the critical question? The critical question is, can Uganda catch up with other countries like America? So this can only be possible by achieving growth rates of GDP sustained for long periods of time. So in order to prescribe policies that will promote growth, we need to understand first what the determinants of economic growth are, and that's exactly where the growth theory comes into picture. So we get to look at the conventional determinants of growth that are going to the economy needs to make in order to maintain sustainable or sustained growth. So we are having the capital accumulation. Here with capital accumulation, a country must save at least 15% of its GDP and invest it in new factories. Here you can give an explanation and say it should also invest in it should invest in socio-economic infrastructures such as roads, schools, etc., in order to cater for its capital accumulation. Then we are having the population and labor force growth. This is a factor still under debate, and with population it can either be two, it can be positive or negative. And when you are having a high population growth, the labor force can increase, and still the potential domestic market can increase, and that is in the long run. But still, this has a negative impact on the economic growth. Then we are having the technological progress. For a country to grow, there must be advancements in technology. For example, better utilization of existing and new found resources to raise output. Then natural resources. A country which is endured with natural resources such as minerals is likely to grow at a faster rate than other countries that are not having these minerals. However, there are countries without these minerals but have attained rapid growth. For example, Japan versus DRC. Then we are having the organization. So organization here deals with basically how organized an economy can be, and entrepreneurial ability to organize other resources promotes production, thus economic growth. Then looking at the role of institutions, here institutions must protect the property rights of particular individuals. So with property rights, this refers to security of ownership of resources, and here the rights are protected. We are having the rule of law. For economic growth to come about, there must be rule of law as opposed to dictatorship. Then we are having the impact of taxes. For a country to grow, there must be a prudent tax policy that is raising revenue by progressively taxing its population. And then we are having investment in education. There must be human resource development for any country to grow, and there are various benefits that accrue to a country whose population is well educated and trainable. So with that, we shall be looking at the we shall be looking at, is Uganda economy growing? So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.